Our special guests for this hour of the program are Mimi and Dick Fariña. You hear them playing in the background now. Mimi is playing the guitar, and Dick is playing his well-known dulcimer. Let's listen to them. This is Celebrations for a Gray Day. Mimi and Dick Fariña. Dick, that's a fantastic instrumental. Does that change every time you play it? Or is that... Do you have any set order for it at all? It's a composite, I know, about 20 different tunes.
Yeah, no, there's an order to the last part of it, you know, the part that begins with Frère Jacques. But then that's never really the same twice either.
There are several tunes I heard in there for the first time that aren't on your record. There's Ya Mustafa, which you put in halfway through.
Yeah, right.
That's a new part.
That's a new part.
And you don't plan these things out at all together? You just sort of jam, or what?
Well, it depends. Well, Barry's here.
Barry, by the way, is Barry Tashin, who is the lead guitarist for Barry and the Remains. And he's playing this sort of thunky type electric guitar in the background.
Yeah. Amplified Sarad.
But other than that, other than the general pattern of what songs you're going to put in, you don't have any particular order to it?
No. Well, an order just to the last half, yeah. And then sometimes we put... Well, we have a kind of code, but, you know, about what we're going to do. But it's not the kind of thing that makes general sense. You know, it makes sense for a specific evening.
You just released a 45, I understand. I understand very well. We've got a copy of it right here. And we're going to play it. We're going to plug it. This is a song you wrote, right? Pack Up Your Sorrows, which is, by the way, it's not your tune, it turns out.
Well, half of it is my tune, yeah. It's written with... Mimi has a number of sisters, one of whom is Pauline Martin. And Pauline wrote the words and the music to part of it, and I wrote the words and the music to another part. It's a joint effort, one might say, if one were disposed to.
And this is one of the, I think, the first 45s Vanguard has released.
That's right.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there are about 2 or 3 others of them.
And you play...
First of ours, yeah.
This is the first of yours, right? And you're backed up on this by an electric guitar and drums, or what?
Yeah, very subtle. It's an amplified acoustical guitar, unlike a solid body Fender. That's Bruce Langhorne, and then there's Bill Lee playing bass, and somebody playing drums, but we don't know who he is. He just, you know, they had him there that night, and he came and went. You can barely hear the drums because he plays very light, just kind of accented percussion on the dulcimer river. You'll hear that.
Let's listen to it. This is Pack Up Your Sorrows. This is the new Vanguard release of Mimi and Dick Fariña. Pack Up Your Sorrows. Later on in the program, we're going to listen to Judy Collins' version of that. She has it on her new album, Judy Collins' 5th volume. Dick, in addition to being a songwriter, you're also a fantastic dulcimer player. I think that should be fairly obvious by now. And I think you also...
Oh, Ed.
Well, it's almost by default, because there's nobody else or very few other people in the folk revival who play dulcimer.
Well, there are, but they're just not... they're not available, you know, in the way we were at the time we happened to record, that's all. But there's a guy named Howie Mitchell, for instance, who's, I think, much the better dulcimer player.
Come to think, speaking of whom, we're going to hear him later on. The theme song for this program is from the record called The Golden Ring.
Yeah.
And the theme we use is Nonsuch, which he plays dulcimer on.
Right. He really plays all over it, because I do some chording, a little chording. Well, more than I used to, too, but he can really play it up and down. And Paul Clayton is very good, too. And Gene Ritchie, of course, in a more traditional sense. But had Clayton, you know, stayed in the cities and hung out with other musicians, I'm sure he'd be doing much the same kind of thing. Maybe even Mitchell, I don't know.
I think I'd like to talk about your songs somewhat. I'd like to hear some of them. Just a few here and there. The songs you write are distinguished, I think, from most of the songs in the folk revival, in that they're much more poetical. I think you consider yourself a poet before a musician, or at least you have. You've written plays, I think, or a novel which is coming out soon.
Yeah.
And was that your first interest, or?
I was doing that before I played the dulcimer, if that's what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And you write your songs.
But I was playing a harmonica before I was doing that.
You write your songs, I would take it, you first write the lyrics and then set them to the music.
No.
You don't?
Not all the time.
That's strange. Because they sound like that very often. Like they're very conscious poetry.
Some of them are virtually simultaneous. It's very difficult to tell, except in retrospect, except afterwards. And there's no sitting down and saying I'm gonna do this or that, the other thing. I write a lot in cars. Sometimes I even dictate to my secretary.
You said that Reno, Nevada was written in a car driving to Reno, Nevada?
That's right. With Alfredo Del Pico, he's a Cuban friend of mine. So was One Way Ticket, in fact. They're both written on that trip. And a bunch of the ones that are on the new album were written in cars. And Mimi has a say in a lot of the music. Sometimes the changes that take place there that are her doing.
There's one thing, Mimi, I want to mention. People who haven't seen you in person probably don't know that, but you're playing two different guitars at two different times.
Yep.
And one of them is tuned like a dulcimer.
Yes.
And then the one you're going to play now is a regular tuned guitar. What are you going to play?
Well, it's a song about Morty Slater, who was a guy who went to Cuba a couple of years ago.
Now, the way you sing this in the song...
I heard you catch your breath.
No, I heard this a couple of nights ago, and I had the impression halfway during the song, through the song, that it wasn't about a real person, but it is.
Yeah, he was this. Well, the story I tell, is I made up part of the beginning of it. I don't know why he went to Cuba. He went with on one of those plane loads of students. And the whole thing was kind of comic. He went with the people who protested, who were breaking the travel ban. That was the whole thing. And when he got back, he was up before the House Un-American Activities Committee, as were they all. And there was a guy in the gallery, the audience, who is working with George Lincoln Rockwell's American Nazi Party. And he was wearing an armband underneath his jacket. He tore his jacket off and ran across the floor, which is kind of a circus thing anyway, and grabbed Slater by the throat and tried to kill him while he was testifying because he didn't like him, I suppose.
Was he ever sent up, by the way?
On a misdemeanor. He got something like 6 months, and I believe it wasn't served all the way through. But Slater and all the other people were cited for contempt of court. And the ironical thing about Slater's sentence is that, of course, he was in the hospital, rather seriously injured at the time. But a lot of the story I make up about why he went is, my own doing. That's the dream part of the title.
Play it, would you?
Yeah. Okay. It's called House Un-American Blues Activity.
Speakers babbling.
better reply. Doesn't matter if you mix it or die. I was lying there unconscious, feeling kind of exempt, when the judge said that silence was a sign of contempt. He took out his gavel, banged me hard on the head. He'd find me 10 years in prison and a whole lot of bread. It was the red, white, and blue making war on the poor. Lying mother justice on a pile of manure. Say your prayers and the pledge of allegiance every night, and tomorrow you'll be feeling alright.
That was what is that thing on the end? Is that just
That's my psyche.
a duck call or something?
Grows right out of my mind, that noise.
Your music is a strange combination of rock and roll and dulcimer music, which seems to fit very well, and protest and weird, almost modal melodies. It's a very strange and very likable combination. Do you think you can? Are you trying to? And do you think you can break open a niche for yourself in the pop market for this music?
We're not really trying to do anything at all, in fact. And the music, one of the things we're trying to do is something that we're trying not to do, which is trying not to run scared, because there's a lot of going on, in New York and in Nashville and L.A. and whatnot.
How do you mean run scared?
Well, run along with what people think we ought to be doing and what happens to be catching on at any given particular time.
This happens to fit into the, now this is probably more coincidental than not, but it happens to fit into the current craze for folk rock protest, which is Billboard's latest discovery.
Yeah.
This and Dawn of Correction and Eve of Destruction and Midday of whatever.
Infiltration. Mm-hmm.
A lot of your stuff is protesty in flavor. Some of it is, and some of it. You sang a song a couple nights ago, which I remember very fondly, about a man who is manages to make a mess out of everything he does, and come in the wrong time, and do the wrong thing, and say the wrong thing. But
yeah, well, why don't you play that other thing on Judy's record, and then we'll tune for that.
You have to use different tuning.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we play the? This is. Pack Up Your Sorrows and Judy Collins' album.
No, it's Carried On.
Carried On. It's Carried On. Have we got Carried On queued up? Okay, and the connection here is that Dick is playing dulcimer in background. That was Judy Collins, and we're back to Mimi Dick Fariña. This song is called Hard Loving Loser.
Yeah. As you said, well, it came out of this feeling that there are today many more things that a kid is under subtle pressure to do well than there were, say, 5 or 6 years ago. There's, skateboarding and surfing and just a whole raft of activities which are there, in the magazines all the time and in playgrounds and whatnot. And I just always feel for the kids who can't do them, and what happens to them. And a lot of them, of course, grow up and become poets. Or they very seldom grow up and become, say, baseball
Is that the
players.
way you grew up, Dick?
Well, let's just say I feel for a lot of those kids. In fact, no, I can do all that now. But
They did that.
yeah, that's a recent. Let's say I came to it. But I've been watching, the reaction, especially in California, of a lot of kids who stand back. Watch the faces, especially in photographs around the streets of the people who can't do it. Like who can't hang 5 when they're surfing, let alone 10, or who can't really skateboard without breaking their skull or something else. Jack Elliott broke his leg skateboarding. Well, he's a good example. He's a regular locksmith on the side.
Yeah.
But the thing is about this song is that the guys, while they might be doing anything else besides surfing and skateboarding, they might be, like hanging out in the back seats of cars. And very often they do get to the point where the chicks really dig them, because they learn a different kind of reticence, a different kind of cool, and so they get very popular and they get good at other things, while people are busy, building up calluses on their knees. So this is called Hard Loving Loser.
Dick, before you start, this is station WTBS in Cambridge. That was for the FCC.
For the who?
FCC.
They hear.
Does that make you want to change the song?
No, I just want to know who's sitting behind me all the time.
Well, he's the kind of guy puts on a motorcycle jacket and he weighs about 105. And he's the kind of surfer, got a old daddy haircut, and you wonder how he'll ever survive. And he's the kind of soldier, got no sense of direction, and they send him in the jungle alone. And he's the kind of frogman using 20 pounds of counterweights and sinking in the sea like a stone. But when the frogs on the pumpkin and the little girls are jumping, he's a hard-loving son of a gun. He's got them waiting down the stairs just to sample his affairs, and they call him a spoonful of fun. And he's the kind of person going riding on a skateboard and his mind raging out of control. And he's the kind of person gonna drive a Maserati, put the key inside the wrong little hole. And he's the kind of ski bum tearing wild down the mountain into patch where there ain't any snow. And he's the kind of got a hot trigger finger, shoots his dip cause he's drawing kind of slow. But when he comes on the road, he's an expert at bold and sets the pins up and lays them right down. He's got them taking off their heels and they like the way he feels, and they call him a carnival clown. Well, he's the kind of say he's got a parachute screaming at Geronimo and makes a little hole in the ground. And he's the kind of logger when the man on his timber has to stop and look around for the sound. And he's the kind of artist rents a gloomy little attic and discovers that he can't grow a beard. And he's a human cannonball coming for a landing, and he wonders where the net disappeared. But when he takes off his shoes, man, it won't come as news that they're lining up and freezing in June. He's got them beating on the floor, got them begging for some more, and they call him whatever they choose. Well, he's the kind of guy puts on a motorcycle jacket and he weighs about 105. And he's the kind of surfer, got a whole daddy haircut, and you wonder how he'll ever survive. He's the kind of frogman using 20 pounds of counterweights, sinking in the sea like a stone. And he's the kind of soldier, got no sense of direction, and they send him in the jungle alone. Going the boys on the pumpkin and the little girls are jumping, he's a hard-loving son of a gun. He's got them waiting down the stairs just to sample his affairs, and they call him a spoonful of fun.
That is beautiful. That is really beautiful.
Let's talk to Barry something.
Yeah, I want to mention
Play it.
that this, I think we said it before, but for those of you who just tuned in, Barry Tashin, who is the Barry from Barry and the Remains, is playing electric guitar behind Mimi and Dick, and is certainly doing one hell of a good job.
Actually, what happened was Barry was at Newport and was going to play with us that Sunday afternoon.
But I was too loud.
It wasn't just that. It was there was a terrible microphone hassle because they were intensely concerned with balancing They had 4 microphones on just Mimi and me, one for each of the instruments, one for our voices. And then we had other people sitting in. We had, Fritz Richmond, who plays with the Jug Band, was going to play bass, tub bass. Barry was going to play electric guitar. Bruce Langhorne was playing tambourine. And Al Cooper showed up. And
Kyle Garahan.
Kyle Garahan from The Lost playing mouth harp. And then some guy who just plays his mouth. There's some guy with this incredible tongue, this lip, this palate, who makes a sound very like a muted trumpet. And there are all these people around, and one of the engineers finally came up and said, there's going to be a disaster, we can't get any balance. So the result was that Barry didn't play with us. But here he is now.
Making up for it all.
About Newport, I think we should mention the near legend that you created for yourself of being able to hold down whatever it was, 5,000 people through one of the most drenching downpours that Newport ever had. It's a fantastic thing. I was standing under the stage when you were playing, and I don't think when you started playing, I guess it started raining about after 1 or 2 songs.
Yeah.
And it rained solid for 15 minutes. I don't think more than half a dozen people left that park.
One of the reasons, by the way, not to undercut too much of the legend, for that having gone on, is that in the middle of the song before, when it started to rain, we didn't know it was raining because the rain hadn't really hit the stage yet, or the wind wasn't blowing it on the stage, and we thought people were leaving because they didn't like us. And we saw a couple of people standing up, and we saw uneasiness in the audience. We didn't know it was the rain falling on them. And so when we started in on the next song, the reason we got so exuberant is because we were angry, and because I didn't want anybody to leave. And we were frustrated.
Well, whatever the reason, you certainly did a good job about that, and it's been well reported, and it's even on the cover of the current issue of Sing Out, Mimi and Dick Fariña playing in the middle of a downpour. There's one other song I heard you do a couple of nights ago, and I want to hear it. It's the one song that you did that you didn't write. Comes from, you said it was written for the University of
Belfast.
Belfast.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's entirely true. We've been trying to track it down, but it was. I learned it in England from the McEwen brothers, Rory and Alex McEwen, and then sang it around in England for a while, and then brought it back here. In fact, sang it here last week at a finishing school. And got all chewed out for it because it's in bad taste. They said in their letter to us, and our managers and friends.
Well, the FCC only listens to our station breaks,
Yeah.
so you don't have to worry about singing that on.
What a drag that must be for them, listening to station breaks all the time. I wonder what the guy looks like who does it. What kind of complexion he has.
Richard.
This is called the Chastity Belt, or a Chastity Belt.
Say, gentle maiden, may I be your lover? Condemn me no longer to mourn and to weep. Struck down like an ox, I lie wounded and fainting. Oh, let down your drawbridge, I'll enter your keep.
Enter your keep, nonny, nonny, enter your keep, nonny, nonny, let down your drawbridge, I'll enter your keep.
A keep is an Anglo-Saxon euphemism for a drawbridge.
Alas, gentle errand, I am not a maiden. I'm married to Sir Oswald, that cunning old Celt, and he's gone to the war for a 12-month or longer, and taken the key to my chastity belt. Chastity belt, nonny, nonny, chastity belt, nonny. nonny, nonny, taken the key to my chastity belt.
Chastity belt is an Anglo-Saxon euphemism for drawbridge. Or keep. Your hands off it.
Fear not, gentle maiden, for I know of a locksmith. To his forge we'll go, on his door we will knock, and try to avail us of his specialized knowledge. We'll see if he's able to unpick your lock.
Unpick your lock, nonny, nonny, unpick your lock, nonny, nonny, see if he's able to unpick your lock.
Alas, sir and madam, to help I'm unable. My technical knowledge is of no avail. I can't find the secret to your combination. The cunning old bastard, he's fitted a Yale.
Fitted a Yale, nonny, nonny, fitted a Yale, nonny, nonny, cunning old bastard, he's fitted a Yale. I'm back from the war with sad news of disaster, a terrible mishap I have to confide. When my ship was passing the Straits of Gibraltar, I carelessly dropped the key over the side. The side, nonny, nonny, over the side, nonny, nonny, carelessly drop the key over the side. Alas, then, and alas, I am locked up forever.
But up spoke a page boy, saying, leave it to me, if you will allow me to enter your chamber. I'll open it up with my duplicate key.
Duplicate key, nonny, nonny, duplicate key, nonny, nonny, open it up with my duplicate key.
That is a fantastic song. And Mimi, that's another thing. I've never heard you sing alone. You very seldom sing alone, and you've got a beautiful voice. Do you do any songs solo? Do you solo on any others? Not yet. Are you working on it or what?
Yeah, thinking about it.
Let's hear some more dulcimer.
Why don't you do Tweelers or something like that?
Can you do something
Let's
that?
listen to the dulcimer on Judy Collins' Pack Up Your Sorrows.
Okay,
I'd like to hear that.
it's a good idea. Have you got it queued up, Sandy? Okay, this is Judy Collins, Volume 5, Pack Up Your Sorrows. That was Judy Collins singing Dick Farina's Pack Up Your Sorrows. Dick and Mimi, your sister wrote half that, right?
Pack Up, yeah, right, Pauline. That was a very groovy session, by the way, that session for that particular song. She did a lot of the songs in this, Judy did a lot of the songs on this last album, one at a time, one session for a song. And so we just all get together and give an evening with, with nothing else to do, and they just let us go in the studio. So it was a lot of fun.
How long does it take to record a song to get a final, a good cut of a song?
Well, you know about as much as I do there. I mean, with us, sometimes it's, I would say the average is between 2 and 6 takes.
You said a whole evening. I thought you might.
Yeah, well, in the case of that particular Pack Up Your Sorrows, we tried a number of different things because there had been no rehearsal. So we just, Eric Weisberg was on the session, and any number of other people. And we just tried different combinations of instruments until we, had fooled around enough to get to the point where we wanted to be, and then did it. But it's very loose and easy going. Sorrows.
You're gonna play a waltz of some kind.
Yeah, it's a waltz. It's it really got started because of all the gas stations I went into and people coming up behind me and saying, "Yes, ma'am."
Thick has long hair. It's not really that long. I don't know.
No, but
why people would object to it so much? My hair is longer than yours.
Yeah, well, we all
Of course,
have
I got a
problem.
beard to counteract it.
Right. Well, it's just this kind of movement afoot to get people to cut their hair and get married and not pierce their ears and things. And so this is a waltz I wrote for the people who are putting those kind of instructions on us. It's called the Sellout Agitation Waltz.
Young recruits who have a collectivized head. Well, you've been gassing and you've been harassing the one who's been passing you by. Time for grooving is always improving, provided you learn to comply. Society is never geared to people who grow a beard or little girls with holes in their ears. They're liable to cut you down and dress you in a wedding gown and offer substantial careers. They'll buy you a suit of clothes and pay to get another nose so no one will turn you away. You wear a tie and hope to die. If anymore you try to fly from people with nothing to say. So find a loose alternative if that's the way you want to live, and give up unusual friends. There's still time to straighten out and learn how to beat about and make your gray flannel amends. So cut your hair and never stare at people who ain't aware that every morning they wake up dead. Take off your boots and find your roots and join the ranks of the young recruits who have a collectivized head.
It's a very strong song. I like this. Dick, one of your, I think one of your classic songs is Birmingham Sunday. It's the first song you wrote, isn't that true?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well,
And
the first song of this kind. I used to write songs, but
Old.
right.
We're going to listen to Birmingham Sunday, sung by Joan Baez, and it's on her fifth album. It's the one with the photograph of her on Big Sur, right?
Right, down the coast from Carmel.
Okay, this is Joan Baez singing Dick Fariña's Birmingham Sunday. That's Barry's electric guitar. That was Joan Baez singing Birmingham Sunday. I think that's I'm really snowed with that song. That's all I can say. It's a very tender, beautiful song.
Thank you.
Okay. There were a couple of cuts on your first Vanguard album. By the way, your second one's coming out in January or February, you say?
Yeah, January, and maybe a little bit before, but probably in January. Most of the songs we've been doing tonight actually are from the next one.
Yes.
Except that, on the first album, only two, Reno, Nevada and One Way Ticket, were done with other musicians. And this next one has 5, I do believe. And some of the songs...
Going the way of all folk flesh.
Yeah, well, it's just... but there's stuff with, the same instrumental kind of business. It runs the gamut. It's not a rock and roll record.
Well, there were 2 cuts on the first album, the Celebrations for a Grey Day, which were unusual to say the least. I guess those were Reno, Nevada, and One Way Ticket.
Right.
Because they were sort of they smacked the folk rock, and yet they aren't really, because there's something about it. I think in Dulcimer, and also the songs that you sing and the harmonies that you use, which there's something that refuses to be associated with folk rock in the same way that the Turtles and the Birds are folk rock. Why don't you play? We've got just a couple minutes left. And
this is a song really that comes out of the conviction they have in California that blondes have more fun.
By the way, we're going to fade out on this, so I just want to remind our listeners that our guests for tonight have been Dick and Mimi Fariña. And I want to thank you very much now, because I won't have a chance to after you finish your playing.
Thank you.
Thank the FCC. And the little man who listens to all the station breaks.